Alarms tear through the ship before I even open my eyes. Red light floods the corridor. My translator crackles awake mid-sentence, catching only the tail end of a warning that makes every limb on my body lock in place. Weapons lock detected. Unknown vessel closing. Brace for impact. I am Vethric San Alara, cultural officer of the Coalition ship Wandering Comet, and I have exactly 4 seconds to decide whether I am about to die. The floor tilts. Something outside strikes our hull, and the whole ship groans like a wounded animal. I grab the railing bolted along the corridor wall and pull myself toward the bridge, my second and third legs slipping on emergency foam that has already flooded the floor to protect against fire. Smoke curls near the ceiling vents. Somewhere behind me, an alarm switches from a warning tone to a final tone, the one we only use when there is no more time left to warn anyone of anything. I reach the bridge and the first thing I see is Captain Oran Vashti gripping the command console with both upper limbs. His eye stalks rigid with focus. On the main screen, a human vessel sits far too close, weapons ports glowing a dull orange that means they are charged and ready. "They think we fired first," the captain says without turning around. His voice is flat, controlled, the way our species speaks when panic threatens to break through. Sensors picked up a debris field near their colony 2 hours ago. They traced the trajectory back to us. They believe we attacked them. "We did not attack anyone," I say. "I know that," he says. "They do not." A voice breaks through the comm channel, sharp, human, edged with something between fear and fury. "This is Colonel Grace Whitmore of the Earth Defense Outpost Halcyon Ridge. You have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and stand by for boarding, or we open fire." "Our weapons are not even charged," I say, loud enough for the channel to catch it. "This is a mistake. Please listen to me." There is a pause on the other end, long enough that I begin to hope. Then the voice returns, colder now. "Explain the debris field then. Explain why 3 of our shuttles are gone. Explain it fast." I do not have an answer. None of us do. The captain looks at me, and for the first time in the 6 cycles I have served under him, I see real fear behind his composure. "20 seconds, the human colonel says." I step forward without thinking and open a direct visual channel, the kind meant for face-to-face negotiation, the kind neither side has used since first contact 11 cycles ago. My hands are shaking. I do this anyway. The screen flickers and a woman appears, hair pulled back tight, a scar along her jaw, eyes that do not blink once while she studies me. "Colonel Whitmore," I say, "my name is Vethric. I am not a soldier. I study your people. I have read your history, your art, your mistakes, and your triumphs. I am asking you, one thinking being to another, to give us 10 more seconds before you decide we deserve to die for something we did not do." Her jaw tightens. 10 seconds, she says, that is all you get. Behind her, I can see other officers moving. One of them a younger man named Daniel Ford who keeps glancing at a secondary screen like it is telling him something urgent. He leans toward the colonel and whispers something I cannot hear. Her eyes flick toward him, then narrow. "Send it," she says. A new feed opens on our bridge, grainy footage from one of their recovered shuttle recorders. It shows the debris field, but not what we expected. It is not wreckage from an attack. It is mining equipment, torn loose by a rogue asteroid cluster that drifted through the colony's shipping lane hours before we ever entered the system. Our arrival was a coincidence. Terrible timing, nothing more. "Colonel," I say, keeping my voice as steady as I can manage, "that field was already there before we arrived. Our own sensors logged the cluster on entry. I can pull the record right now." "Do it," she says, "now." I turn to the science station, where Officer Talia Marrow, her limbs trembling nearly as much as mine, pulls up our arrival logs with shaking claws. The numbers appear on screen, time-stamped, unedited, showing the debris already scattered across the lane 4 hours before our first scan of the system. The bridge falls silent except for the hum of overworked engines and the soft click of Talia's claws against the console. On the main screen, Colonel Whitmore stares at the data, her expression unreadable, one hand still resting near a control that could end all of our lives in a heartbeat. 10 seconds, the countdown from earlier still echoes in my head, though no one is saying it anymore. The silence stretches so long that I start to believe she has already made her choice and is only waiting for the right moment to act on it. Then she exhales, long and slow, and lowers her hand from the console. "Stand down, weapons," she says to her crew, though she never looks away from me. Daniel Ford lets out a breath so loud I hear it clearly through the channel. "You are lucky your logs matched ours," she says to me. "If they had not, none of this conversation would have mattered." "I understand," I say, and I mean it completely. The tension in my body does not leave immediately. It sits there, coiled tight, refusing to believe the danger has actually passed. Around me, the bridge crew begins to move again, checking damage reports, restoring power to systems that had been diverted to shields. Captain Vashti finally releases his grip on the console, and I notice his claws have left small grooves in the metal. "That was too close," he says quietly. "It worked," I say. "This time," he says. Colonel Whitmore requests permission to dock for a formal inquiry, a chance to inspect our logs firsthand rather than trust a single transmission. The captain agrees immediately, eager to prove there is nothing left to hide. Within the hour, a small human shuttle attaches to our airlock, and Colonel Whitmore steps aboard with 2 officers flanking her, Daniel Ford among them, along with a woman named Lily Grant carrying a scanning device strapped across her shoulder. The air on our ship is thinner than theirs, and I watch them adjust immediately, breathing carefully through the masks their suits provide. Colonel Whitmore removes her helmet anyway, against protocol, and looks directly at me. "You spoke well," she says. "Most translators would have stayed quiet and let the machines argue for them." "I did not want to die over a coincidence," I say. "Neither did I," she admits, though her voice carries the weight of someone who nearly caused exactly that. "Show me your logs." We spend the next hour walking her team through every system, every sensor reading, every scrap of evidence that proves our innocence beyond any reasonable doubt. Lily Grant scans each console personally, cross-referencing everything against portable records she brought from the colony. Daniel Ford watches me more than he watches the data, his curiosity plain on his face, the kind of look our own scientists give unfamiliar life forms. "You are not what I expected," he says at one point, when the colonel steps away to speak quietly with the captain. "What did you expect?" I ask. "Something colder," he says, "more mechanical. You look terrified up there." "I was terrified," I say. "I still am a little." He laughs, short and surprised. That is oddly comforting. When the inspection finally ends, Colonel Whitmore gathers her team near the airlock, her posture less rigid than before, though still cautious. She turns to me one last time. "This could have ended very badly," she says. "It could have," I agree. "I do not enjoy admitting fault," she says, "but the fault here was ours. We saw danger and assumed the worst because assuming the worst has kept my people alive for a very long time." "I understand that instinct," I say. "My people have one very similar." She studies me for a moment, then something in her expression shifts, softens slightly, the tension of the last few hours finally beginning to drain away. Before she turns to leave, Daniel Ford pulls something from a pocket in his suit, small and wrapped in simple paper. "Peace offering," he says, holding it out to me, "since we almost blew you out of the sky over a misunderstanding." I take the item carefully, uncertain of its purpose, and unwrap the paper to find a small round object, pale gold, dotted with dark fragments across its surface. I turn it over twice, studying it the way I would study any unfamiliar artifact. "It is called a cookie," Lily Grant says, smiling for the first time since she boarded. "Basic recipe. Flour, sugar, butter, chocolate chips. Nothing dangerous, I promise. Ithoc species do not typically consume solid organic matter in front of others, I explain. It is considered a private function among my people. Well, Daniel says, today has already broken every rule about how first contact is supposed to go. Might as well break one more. Colonel Whitmore watches with quiet interest, her earlier hardness replaced by something closer to curiosity. Captain Vashti, standing nearby, tilts his head slightly, waiting to see what I will do. I lift the cookie toward what functions as my mouth, aware that every human and every member of my own crew is watching closely, aware that whatever happens next will be remembered long after the danger of today fades from memory. I take a small bite. The texture surprises me first, soft yet slightly firm at the edges, followed by a sweetness unlike anything in our standard nutrient supply. Then comes the flavor of the dark fragments, rich and warm, spreading through senses I did not know could respond this way to food. My eye stalks retract on their own, an involuntary reaction among my people that signals deep, overwhelming satisfaction. "Are you all right?" Daniel asks, half laughing, half concerned. "I am better than all right," I say, my voice unsteady in a way it has never been during any diplomatic exchange in my career. "This is remarkable." Captain Vashti steps closer, curiosity clearly overtaking his usual caution. "May I try?" he asks, addressing Lily Grant directly. She smiles and produces a second cookie from a small pouch at her side, handing it to him without hesitation. The captain examines it exactly as I did, then takes a bite, and within seconds his composed, formal posture collapses into something far less dignified, a low sound of pure enjoyment escaping him that neither our translators nor our protocols have any polite word for. Word spreads through the ship faster than any official announcement could manage. Within the hour, half our crew has gathered near the airlock, eye stalks twitching with barely restrained curiosity, watching Lily Grant explain the recipe to Talia Marrow, who insists on writing down every single measurement with scientific precision. Colonel Whitmore watches all of this unfold with an expression somewhere between disbelief and quiet amusement. "This is not exactly how I imagined ending today," she admits. "Neither did I say honestly, still savoring the last trace of sweetness. An hour ago we were seconds from destroying each other. Now half my crew is asking your officer for a recipe." "Maybe that is not such a bad way for a day like this to end," she says. Daniel Ford, still standing near me, glances toward the growing crowd near the airlock with visible amazement. "I think you just started something," he says. "What do you mean?" I ask. "Every alien species we have ever met keeps things strictly professional," he says. "No one has ever asked us for cooking advice in the middle of a near-war incident." "Perhaps that is exactly what today needed," I say. "Something small enough to remind everyone involved that we are not so different underneath all our fear." Colonel Whitmore steps forward one final time before returning to her shuttle, her expression thoughtful now rather than guarded. "I will be recommending a formal review of our detection protocols," she says. "What happened today should never happen again, not over a misread debris field." "I will recommend the same on our side," Captain Vashti says, still holding what remains of his cookie with visible reluctance to finish it. "Good," she says. "Then maybe next time we meet, it will not start with weapons charged and 30 seconds on a countdown." "Perhaps next time," I say, "it will start with a shared meal instead." She almost smiles at that, the closest expression to warmth I have seen from her since this encounter began. "Almost," she says, "but do not push your luck yet, cultural officer." As the human shuttle detaches and drifts away from our hull, I remain near the airlock window, watching it shrink slowly against the stars, my body still adjusting to the sweetness lingering in my system. Around me, the ship gradually returns to its normal rhythm, alarms silent, lights restored to their usual steady white instead of warning red. Captain Vashti approaches, standing beside me at the window, his tone quieter now than during the crisis. "You handled that well," he says. "Better than protocol required." "Protocol nearly got us destroyed today," I say. "Sometimes reaching past protocol is the only option left." He considers this for a long moment, watching the shuttle vanish into the dark. Talia Marrow approaches from behind, holding a small notebook filled with careful handwriting, the recipe copied out completely, measurements and instructions translated into our own numerical system. "I already requested ingredients through the supply officer," she announces, practically vibrating with excitement. "If the conversion calculations are correct, we should be able to recreate this cookie within 2 days." Captain Vashti glances at me, something like amusement flickering behind his usual composure. "It seems today changed more than just our detection protocols," he says. "It seems that way." I agree. 2 days later, our small galley fills with an unfamiliar warmth, a scent drifting through the recycled air that our ship has never produced before, sweet and rich, completely unlike the sterile efficiency of our usual nutrient preparation. Talia Marrow stands proudly beside a tray of slightly uneven, slightly overcooked cookies, clearly her first attempt, yet met with an enthusiasm from the crew that borders on celebration. Word of the incident and its unusual resolution eventually reaches Coalition Command, along with a formal request from Colonel Whitmore's outpost proposing regular cultural exchange meetings between our two peoples. Meetings that would include, according to her own written recommendation, structured opportunities for shared meals. I read the proposal twice, then a third time, allowing myself a rare moment of quiet satisfaction. What began as 30 seconds from complete destruction has become something neither side expected, a small step toward understanding built not through treaties or formal negotiation, but through something as simple as a single shared cookie between two species who very nearly never had the chance to share anything at all. Standing again near the observation window, watching the stars stretch endlessly beyond our hull, I find myself already looking forward to whatever comes next, uncertain exactly what form it will take, yet confident that whatever happens, it will be built on something sturdier than fear.